Hello, I'm Oliver Colling, and this is my 70s TV childhood. Welcome back to my 70s TV childhood. We are a podcast dedicated to remembering what it was like to grow up as a child in 1970s Britain, and the important part that television played in our lives back then. If you are a new listener, then a particular welcome to you. And if you're one of our band of dedicated long-term listeners, then thank you for your loyalty, and to be honest, well done for your stamina. First off, I know lots of you have been wondering how we got on at the recent star-studded, glamorous UK Independent Podcast Awards ceremony. Well, we had a lovely evening, but for the second consecutive year we didn't win, and had to smile through clenched teeth as we applauded the winners in our category. Seriously though, I'd like to congratulate Kathy Cullen and Dave Corkery of the Cinemile podcast for their win as Best Film and TV Podcast. I could say we're all winners on the night, but that would be going a bit too far, and I'd be lying. Because, being fiercely competitive, we were a little bit disappointed. But onwards and upwards. Now, our digital postbag has been bulging over the last week or two, largely because, as well as interest in the awards, I managed to generate quite a healthy response to our recent episode featuring the 1970 classic sci-fi series Time Slip. Largely by, making a few mistakes and misremembering things. I am always a bit wary of featuring beloved sci-fi because you listeners all know far more about it than I do. Plus I do try and do things from memory, and the early 70s was, quite a long time ago, as we all know. Anyway, many apologies for getting my characters a bit mixed up. Also, I need to set the record straight with Julia, one of our regular listeners, who suggested that I make mistakes on purpose to generate a response from our eagle-eared listeners. Julia, how could you suggest such a thing? If only I thought about that earlier, that might have been a good plan, but no, my mistakes are all down to genuine errors, and my misremembering of events and TV shows, many of which I haven't watched for around 50 years. Anyway, if you want to put me right on my mistakes or get in touch like Julia's done on things that we featured in the podcast or anything else that crosses your mind, you can do so in a number of ways. You can leave a message on our blog at www.my70stvchildhood.com, find us on our Facebook, Twitter/X, YouTube or LinkedIn pages, or you can just email me, oliver@my70stvchildhood.com. For those of you who are new to the podcast, we alternate our weekly podcast between reminiscences of 70s childhood and memories and our 1970s TV-related trivia quiz, both of which seem to be pretty popular, I have to say. So look out for our next quiz next week. Today, though, I'm going to try and do something which I believe proper media types call crossover. One of the most popular rounds in our quiz involves spinning our specially constructed Wheel of Fate to pick a year from which I'll either ask questions or play a theme tune for you to guess. Now, today I'm going to do that, choose what we're going to feature in this episode. So we're going to look back at programmes on November the 19th in whatever year the wheel chooses. Are you with me so far? This may be foolhardy, but let's give it a go. And let's spin the wheel. Round and round and round she goes. Where she stops, nobody knows. And we've landed on 1975. Right. Bear with me for a minute. I'm just going down into the cellar where we keep the archives here at My 70s TV Childhood Towers and search out the Radio and TV Times featuring schedules for the 19th of November 1975. It's a bit dusty in here. But anyway, here we are. Okay, let's bring those back up the steps to the studio. Oof, there we go. Right, I'm glad to sit down. Let's take a look at the Radio Times first. Now, a quick reminder for our younger listeners and those who may have forgotten that we had to have 2 listings magazines for some strange reason, so all BBC shows were featured in the Radio Times, and ITV shows featured in the TV Times. Really quite bizarre when you think about it now. Anyway, let's take a look back to the 19th of November 1975, which it was a Wednesday. Okay, so let's open up the Radio Times for that day. Let's look at BBC One. We start off at 9:15. You had none of your breakfast television nonsense in those days. The station was closed down from when we'd all gone to bed the night before until 9:15, where we have some programmes for schools and colleges. And what have we got in the exciting lineup here? 9:15, engineering craft studies, stress and strain. Okay, for all you budding engineers out there. Followed by more science at 9:38 with science all round, featuring weighing. Okay. 10 o'clock to 10:15, tout compris, programme 4, which I'm guessing from the description is a French language programme. And then I won't try to pronounce it. At 10:23, we have a Welsh language programme for schools about animal senses. And at 10:45, we have You and Me. I remember that one. And What's That Noise? Okay, that sounds like fun. And then we're back for more mainstream schools and colleges programmes at 11. We've got Maths Workshop, Stage 1, Axes and Grids. Oh, I used to hate that. I don't know about you. I just couldn't get it. How you had to do grids and translations and moving around on axes and all those things. Absolutely made no impact on me at all. And I couldn't really see what it's going to help me with in future life. And you know what? In my late 50s, I haven't needed to refer to axes and grids once. 11:23, Words and Pictures. Series for 6 and 7-year-olds in the beginning of stages of reading. And we've got something about monkeys doing tricks. Probably not really acceptable in the current climate. But anyway, we enjoyed that in those days. 11:40, British Social History of Strikes. That all sounds quite serious. And at 12:05, we have Ensemble, a 24-part French course for beginners. So more French. L'entente cordiale. 12:30, we have Day and Night, a programme about police affairs, including Crime Line, the hotline between police and the public. Ooh, that sounds quite exciting. We've got a news bulletin at 12:55, and then at 1 o'clock, what else would there be on a weekday on BBC? It's Pebble Mill at 1, with the legendary Bob Langley, Donny MacLeod, Marion Foster, and David Seymour presenting activities, music, personalities and talking points from the BBC Broadcasting Centre in Birmingham, including Claire Rayner's Family Advice. Well, there we go. 1:45, we've got In the Town. Okay, so In the Town, right. That looks like a Watch With Mother programme. I don't remember that one. Does anyone remember In the Town? Can you help me out with that? Before at 2 o'clock, we're back for schools and colleges with Watch, featuring Holes in the Head. Not sure about that. And then, well, here's some good stuff. Living in a developing country, what it's like to live in a city in Ghana. Well, I'm sure that was fascinating. And we're closing down at 3 o'clock. So just again, we've got a close down in the middle of the day on the main channel. So between 3 and 4 o'clock, we had the test card. Before we had a regional news bulletin at 4 o'clock, followed by one of our favourites and one of the classics. After play school, we got Huckleberry Hound with another hilarious adventure of Huck and his quest for the peaceful life. Now, Huckleberry Hound was quite watchable, but I don't ever remember it being, well, hilarious, but, some of you may disagree. 4:30, Jack and Ori with Freddie Jones reading The Boy and the Monkey by Leon Garfield. Oh, and then at 4:45, something that we've featured in our earlier podcast about the Waltons. This is almost the cartoon version of the Waltons, called, do you remember what it was called? These Are the Days. They don't make them like that anymore. 5:05, we're on to that staple of children's TV, John Craven's News Round. And then at 5:15, we've got something, what's this? This sounds exciting. Circus. An adventure series in 6 parts. When Vincenti tries to conceal the fact that his trapeze has been sabotaged, the suspicions held by Julius are voiced by Maria. Well, that sounds really exciting. But I don't remember that at all. What was I doing in November 1975, which meant I missed that? And looking at it, it appears to be a BBC-produced series as well, rather than one of the many, many foreign-based programmes that we had. Oh, right, again, listeners, if any of you remember Circus, let me know. That sounds really exciting. And then we go to 5:40 and we have one of our 5-minute marvels just before the news. I can't listen to that theme tune without just thinking about sitting around with my sister and my parents, having a cup of tea just before the evening news was on. Happy memories. 5:45, the news with Richard Whitmore, followed by Nationwide, presented by Michael Barrett and Frank Boff, together with Bob Wellings and Dilys Morgan. Well, that was fantastic. And I have mentioned on the podcast before that Michael Barrett looked just like our headmaster, Mr. Smith. Were they related? I don't know. Were they ever seen in the same place at the same time? We should be told. And then 10 to 7, we've got a short cartoon, Pest in the House, followed by, 7 o'clock, the Superstars. I used to love the Superstars. You'd see all these famous sports people out of their own environment doing sort of other things like races and obstacle courses and things like that. So who have we got this time? From Great Britain, Olympic gold medalist and 1973 sporting superstar David Hemery and Manchester City star Colin Bell. That's a good pair. Who else have we got? Jackie Eakes, the Formula One driver. Bjorn Nordqvist, the World Cup soccer player. I don't recognise everybody else. It all sounded very glamorous until I just read it comes from the garrison town of Aldershot together with the British Army. So there we go. Commentators David Vine and Ron Pickering. Happy memories. 8:10, Softly Softly Task Force with Frank Windsor playing Detective Chief Superintendent Watt, following on from his Z-Cars role. 9 o'clock news at 9 o'clock. Well, obviously. And then, 9:25 till Death Us Do Part. Now, do you know, I would have sworn that probably wasn't on in 1975. I would have thought it had finished by then. But then, perhaps it's my parents, who are usually quite liberal in letting me watch TV programmes, decided I shouldn't be watching that one. Who knows? But unfortunately, they're not around to ask. 9:55, we've got Sports Night with Harry Carpenter, including International Rugby Union, Edinburgh against Australia. From Mireside, the Wallabies' first visit to Scotland this tour. Yeah, very exciting. And then a news programme called Tonight at 10:45, followed by a weather forecast and close down at 11:20. So at 11:20, the main channel in the country closed down, played the national anthem, we all stood up and we went to bed. What was the lineup we had on that day? It represents, I think, some of the best and possibly some of the worst things about UK TV at the time. It reinforces the fact that we had long periods when one of the main two channels was off the air. And we've also got old favourites like Superstars and Sports Night to keep us amused. And then we have Alf Garnett, which, well, I guess it divides opinions even now, decades afterwards. So, enough of this mainstream popular entertainment. What do the cultured and very refined viewers of BBC Two have in store this day, 49 years ago? Let's take a look. Let's have a look at the BBC Two schedules. Okay, so 10:35, we have a special magazine programme for Asian viewers, followed by, it's Play School again. So Play School was on twice in the same day. Do you think they were doing this to sort of fiddle the ratings or something? So on in the morning and then again in the afternoon on BBC One. There we go, I don't remember that. At 11:25, we have a close down. And then, unbelievably, there's nothing broadcast until 7:05. So it was off the air for almost the whole day, when we have a fascinating sounding programme called Trade Union Studies, which is featuring unfair dismissal, what union representatives need to know about their members' rights under the law, especially when they're threatened with a sack. Well, it's all very worthy, but it doesn't sound like primetime entertainment to me. What have we got after that? More weather. Another news programme, Newsday with Ludovic Kennedy and Robin Day. And then at 7:55, we've got Twiggy, starring Twiggy singing and dancing in her own special style. I'm really sorry, Twiggy, I don't remember this at all. So what your own special style was, I really can't tell. But again, if any listeners do remember what Twiggy's special style was for singing and dancing, let us know. 20:30, we've got Arena Art and Design featuring Shirley Conran. Okay. And then 9 o'clock, we have the classical music quiz Face the Music. I do remember that. And I remember it being virtually impossible, having no knowledge of classical music as a child. But it all seemed very sort of cultured and pleased with itself. And at 9:30, what's we got here? We've got a drama, The Whip Hand. Jimmy from Stockport and Bobby from Glasgow are apprentice jockeys. Yeah, that sounds quite exciting. But again, I'm afraid I don't remember it. Who were the stars? Jimmy was Sean Flanagan and Bobby was Lindsay Dunn. Well, sorry, Sean and Lindsay, I don't remember your drama, but it does sound fascinating. So if any listeners do remember it, let me know. 10:55, Newsnight, more news. And then 11:10, we've got Close Down, but not before we've had Hugh Burton reading Red Geranium and Godly Mignonette by D.H. Lawrence. So a bit of culture at the end of the day. So nothing much to set the pulse racing there 49 years ago, but yet another day where the channel was off the air longer than it was on. So what was on ITV? Surely the commercial station, as some people rather snootily referred to it, would have a few more racy programmes. Do you know, I was speaking to someone at work only this week who yet again told me the story that their family could only watch the BBC when their granny came to visit because she disapproved of ITV strongly, finding the whole thing immoral. When you think what's available on all the channels and internet sources we now have, that does seem like a comment from 150 years ago rather than 50. Well, okay, before you all write in, I know there wasn't TV 150 years ago, but you know what I'm getting at. Right then, let me cast the Radio Times onto the floor, replace it carefully into the archive, and let's take a look at TV Times, which, as always, is a bit bolder, glossier, and a little more razzmatazz than the staid old Radio Times. Right, so what have we got? Okay, again, we only start at 9:30, so nothing on before 9:30. And we have lots of schools programmes. I'm guessing a bit bored of schools programmes, so I'll only pick, this one looks interesting. We have a programme about table tennis during the schools programmes. Was that how to play? Was that featuring great matches? I don't know. Then at 10:45, we have an intermission. I used to like those to play some nice classical music and show an interesting, calming scene. Like flowers in the wood or things like that. And then more schools programmes. And then at 12 o'clock, we have the children's show Here Comes Mumphy. Now, that was one I sort of vaguely remember, but I do remember that it was very popular with certain children. But I don't know, perhaps it didn't quite get to me. So it's not one of my most remembered programmes. But the one that followed it at 12:10 is...
The streets and houses, rainbow climbing high. Everyone can see it smiling over the sky. Paint the whole world with a
Can't resist playing the theme tune because we just love looking back to Geoffrey, Bungle, Zippy, George and the gang. After Rainbow, we've got Mr. and Mrs. And I won't reignite the furore I caused when I said that Derek Beatty was the presenter of Mr. and Mrs., when lots of you told me about lots of other variants of Mr. and Mrs. that happened across different ITV regions, all of whom had their own presenter. But for me, it will always be Derek Beatty. And it was so nice to the contestants, many of whom were elderly, and who tended to demonstrate that they didn't know anything about their partner when they were asked questions about their habits and what it was like to live with their other half. Although those that were lucky enough to win managed to walk off with £10 or £20 and their carriage clock. 1 o'clock, we've got some news, first report, and local news from Granada Reports in my region. Then at 1:30, we've got the fantastic legal drama Crown Court. 2 o'clock, we have something called Good Afternoon, which appears to be a chat show for women, by women for women. That predates Loose Women by quite a few years. Couples at 2:30, not sure what that is about. At 3:25, we have Looks Familiar with Dennis Norden, who is sort of reminiscing about the music hall and things like that. Now, Dennis Norden was lovely to listen to, but I didn't really find him very amusing. I think the funniest thing he did was, do you remember It'll Be All Right on the Night with all the bloopers from TV and film? That was good fun. But Dennis himself, yes, I think belonged to a bygone era. We got hospital drama with General Hospital at 3:55, and then at 4:25, one of our favourites, The Sooty Show. Oh, what's this at 4:50? Boy Dominic. This looks good. The adventures of a 12-year-old boy's struggles in 19th century Yorkshire after his father, Captain Charles Bullman, is lost, presumed drowned off the coast of Africa. That sounds very exciting, and it stars Richard Todd and the legendary Brian Blessed. That's marvellous. Now, again, I don't know what I must have been doing in November 1975 because I have no memory of Boy Dominic at all. So if anyone could help, please do. Sounds very exciting. And after the excitement of that, we wind down with a little bit of country lore from everybody's favourite pipe-smoking TV presenter, Jack Hargreaves, with Out of Town. More news at 10 to 6, followed by Granada Reports, our local news programme. 6:35, we've got Crossroads, classic, followed by This Is Your Life with Eamon Andrews. And, obviously it doesn't tell me who the guest is going to be because that wouldn't be very good if you knew beforehand. You missed the surprising bit of the moment where Eamon would pop out to somebody and says, "Tonight, this is your life." And then at 7:30, regular Wednesday, 7:30, Coronation Street. Followed at 8 by Cooper, which is a series featuring Tommy Cooper, but not just Tommy Cooper. Songs provided by Lindsay DePaul, and a sequence called Fez to Fez, where David Hamilton interviews Tommy about his career and his secrets. That sounds pretty interesting. I think I'd like to see that. What have we got? 8:30, Rule Britannia, a sitcom. An Englishman bearing up to marriage and life with a stiff upper lip suddenly remembers his promises to 3 shipmates, and the day of their vow to meet 25 years later is almost here. And then the Irishman, the Englishman, the Welshman and the Scotsman will drink again. Does sound like the beginning of a very old joke. And again, I'm afraid Rule Britannia doesn't feature in my memories at all. So listeners, if you remember it, was it any good? Let me know. 9 o'clock, we've got The American Police Story, which is a fairly routine crime drama from what I remember. News at 10 o'clock, obviously. And then we've got a bit more news programmes. And then, 11:35 to 1 o'clock. So we're going into the next morning here. It's a bit racy from the commercial station. We have the X film build, although rather irritatingly, it doesn't actually tell me what the X film is going to be. So presumably if you have people who are looking for something a bit racy or a bit violent or a bit scary, they'd have to stay up to 11:35 and then find out whether the X film was something that was actually worth watching. Yeah. Well, that lineup's a bit more like it. I have to say I'm intrigued by the Boy Dominic show. That sounds like something right up my street, but I don't remember it at all. I'm sure some of our listeners can help out with that one and some of the other shows that I mentioned. So if you can help out with Boy Dominic, or if you have any special memories of any of the shows we've mentioned from November 1975, let me know by getting in touch via all the ways that I mentioned earlier in the podcast. We do love to hear from you. Well, that's all we have time for just now, but before we go, I'd just like to remind you that we are still accepting questions for our pre-Christmas listener question sourced quiz. I've had a few queries on this one, so here's a bit of further advice. You can submit as few or as many questions as you like. They don't have to be Christmas themed, but if you want them to be, then that's okay too. And for those of you who sent me just questions, the answers might come in useful too, so please send me the answers if you've only sent me questions. And send all of that to quiz@my70stvchildhood.com. So join us again next week for the next episode of our quiz, and then again in a fortnight for our next regular episode. In the meantime, have a good week, be kind to one another, and see you again soon for more from My 70s TV Childhood.